things are about to get messy. Look at how soft that is.
The real test of a good pork rib is that the bone should literally be like clean as a whistle.
And I mean, look at that. Look at that. Look at those ribs. They're so amazing. I love that. They're just so shiny and sticky. That color, that deep mahogany color is so cool. They smell amazing. This sauce smells so good.
All the ribs.
Yes, I can. Sweet, sticky, just a little charry, and check out how soft and tender those ribs are. And we're gonna do this with 4 ingredients, my friends. These are my sticky Asian pork ribs. I love this one, super simple. I've got 2 huge racks of ribs here. You know, you can never have too many ribs. And what you want to do is just season these guys with some salt. And now for the sauce. So I'm going to be using my Asian barbecue sauce. I love this one because it has like the sweet and tangy, but it also has some extra little bits and pieces like Chinese 5-spice and pickled garlic and ginger. Look, you could use whatever barbecue sauce you love to use at home, any kind of smoky barbecue sauce, or even a Japanese tonkatsu like barbecue sauce is great too. So you just want some of that in a large bowl. Ketchup. I love that these are like, it's, you know, not only a 4 ingredient ribs recipe, but the 3 sauce ingredients just like, you know, straight from the pantry. So easy. So ketchup and some hoisin sauce. Okay, so just give that a mix. And now for the cooking part, I've got a couple of little tricks here that will ensure that you get the stickiest, the softest ribs. So let's get going on that. Now what you need first of all is some foil. Now pop the ribs onto the foil, and we basically want to make like a foil parcel for our ribs. So these go in here, and then you want to pour half of the sauce on because we're going to use the rest of the sauce to baste the ribs a little bit later. All right, so make sure that every inch of those ribs gets some love with that sauce. Back as well. And so now we make the little foil parcel I was talking about. So grab another piece of foil, pop that on top. And now just scrunch those edges together all the way around. And the whole idea here is that we're gonna cook this really low and slow in the oven. And all of that steam, that trapped steam in there, is gonna make our pork ribs really beautifully tender. It's the secret to getting really tender ribs. Okay, let's get these in the oven. Now, we're not quite there yet. We've still got one more step to go before our ribs are perfect. And now let's take a peek and see how we're going in there. Okay, so these are looking and smelling really good. So at this point we have a really beautiful, soft, tender pork rib here, but we don't have the glistening kind of sticky charriness that I really want. So the second part of the cooking is all about getting that. So what you want to do is just get your ribs out onto a clean foil-lined tray. Okay, so now we want some extra sauce on here. Be generous. Now I've turned my oven up nice and hot, and I'm going to get these back in for about 5 to 10 minutes or until everything is looking sticky and glorious. All right, so how good did these guys look? They're all shiny and sticky and just that little bit charry at the end there. Oh, this kind of thing makes me so excited. Now let's get these out onto a serving platter. And that, my friends, is one epic dish you can make with just 4 ingredients and very little hard work, I have to say. Now, these guys definitely need me to try them out in case they're terrible, which they won't be, hopefully. Now, you know I need to get in here and see what's going on, of course. Now, you know, this is just the kind of thing that's so, you know, difficult. It's so hard to be tasting ribs. Oh, this looks so good. Holy smokes, like, you are hit with so much flavor in there. It's sweet and tangy, but then you've got like the beautiful Chinese 5-spice flavor and that charry porky goodness flavor. That is so good. And for me, the real test of a good pork rib is that the bone should literally be like clean as a whistle. Check that out, so good. It's this kind of thing that really just puts a smile on my face. Yum. Can I eat all the ribs? Yes, I can. Glossy, sweet and tangy spare ribs. These guys are so ridiculously addictive. These are my Chinese red-braised spare ribs. We are going to use classic Chinese techniques to make this beautiful spare rib dish. And can I say, well, you probably should make double here because they go very fast once they're on the table. All right, let's take a look at the ribs first because there are a couple of little tips and tricks here that we need to get right to get the best dish at the end. If we have a look at the ribs themselves, I've got some really short spare ribs here. If you're buying these from an Asian butcher or an Asian supermarket, it's quite common to find them like this already sort of cut up. You could do them with a longer rib. I just find they don't get as much kind of sauce and traction in the wok. So try and find these shorter ones. And what we want to do is blanch them in some water first of all. That's going to get rid of some of the impurities and some of the kind of gunk that comes out of them. You'll see what I mean a bit later. But start off with some cold water or just room temperature water and then bring this up to a simmer. So now that we've got that water bubbling, you can see the gunky stuff I was talking about up here on the top, and I'm just going to scoop that off. And you want to let those ribs kind of simmer in there at this heat for a couple of minutes more and just keep scooping off any of that stuff at the top. All right, so now I'm going to take these guys out. And then just to clean them up just that little bit further, I'm going to rinse them in some water. So now just pluck them out, drain them fairly well, and get them out into a bowl. Now let's get on with the red braising part. So Chinese red braising traditionally makes use of like a sugar caramel and then some additional soy sauce and some aromatics to really bring about like a sticky, glazed, red, well, more like mahogany colored result. You'll see what I mean. We're going to start off with a little bit of oil. And then Chinese rock sugar would be your traditional sugar to use here. I find it really difficult to get a hold of, so I'm just going to use some brown sugar. And I basically want to wait for this sugar to start to melt in the oil. Now, the one thing you want to do is make sure you don't burn the sugar here. So once you can start to see it melting, then add in your pork. Now there'll be a little bit of liquid here, so just be a bit careful with some oil splatter here. Now just keep tossing and mixing these ribs around in a sugar mixture, and we want to wait for that sugar to start to really thicken up and coat the ribs. So see how we can see that sauce bubbling away in the bottom there? Just want to wait for that to thicken up. Now if you have a look here, my ribs are beautifully coloured, and I can see that that oil is starting to separate out, and we don't have that much liquid in the bottom here. So now it's time to continue. I'm going to add in some soy sauce and some dark soy sauce, and then some Chinese cooking wine. Now I want some vinegar here as well. That's going to give us like a sweet and sour flavour. And now I've got some water here. I've got about 1/4 of a cup, and what you want to do is pour in the water until the liquid comes sort of about halfway up the side of the ribs here. Don't want too much water because I do want to thicken this sauce up at the end. Just mix that through a little. And now we add in some aromatics. I've got some stems of a spring onion, some ginger, some star anise. Just with this garlic, I just want to lightly crush it. Now pop a lid on and turn the heat down so it's just bubbling away, and you want to let these guys go for about 25 minutes. Give them a bit of a stir about halfway through. All right, let's take a look. Oh, that's smelling good. Now I'm just going to take out those aromatics that we put in, like the spring onion and the ginger and the garlic. And now turn the heat up, and I would highly recommend being patient and watching over your little pot here, because the last thing you want to do is burn that sauce and ruin everything. So just let it simmer away. It won't take too long, like 10 minutes, 12 minutes max. And I'm just waiting for that sauce to kind of cling and stick to each of those ribs. Now the beautiful alchemy that we're looking for here is that transition from liquid braise to, I guess, like sticky, glossy glaze. That like rhymes. I'm totally making poetry here. Ridiculous. Okay, let's get back to the pork ribs. So you can see that the sauce is almost all but gone, and we've just got that oil starting to separate at the bottom. That's exactly what I want. Now, ribs are ready to go. So get these out into a bowl. So this isn't an overly saucy dish. There should be just enough sauce to coat each of those ribs. And now you want a sprinkling of sesame seeds. And a little sprinkling of greenery as well, some spring onions. And there you go, Chinese style braised short ribs. So you could serve this as like a finger food style of thing, or more traditionally, you know, with some steamed rice and other little bits and pieces, like a Chinese banquet style. Whichever way you want to serve them is fine, because they are so delicious on their own. Let's have a look. That style of cooking and the way it just seems to penetrate into that rib meat, so good. That really is magic. Still can't believe I was rhyming. Oh, I'm gonna have to edit that out. Really are. Very good. Look at how soft that is. 4 ingredient ribs. Epic. We need another batch. Might need to reshoot.
Okay, so this could not be any easier. The one little tip that I would give you guys though when you're doing ribs in the whole rack here is to make sure that you do take the time to take the membrane off on the back. That's going to make sure everything really is soft and melts in your mouth without too much resistance. So if you have a look here, I just want to run my knife just under that first layer there, just to get it started, and then you'll need to grab a hold of it with your fingers and really work that membrane off. It's a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, but it's worth it in the end. So now we want to season these guys with some salt. Just rub that in a little, both sides. Should never skimp on the seasoning with the salt, especially when it comes to big hunky bits of meat like this. So our sauce is a combination of all things spicy and super flavorful. We're gonna start off with some Korean chili paste. This is a fermented chili paste. It's called gochujang. It has a terrific kind of smoky chili flavor, and it's available in a lot of supermarkets these days, just in your Asian aisle. And some tomato ketchup as well. Now I like to kick up the spice level a little bit with an Asian chili sauce. So I'm using my coconut sriracha. This one is hot, guys. I'm not gonna lie, but it is good hot. You could use any type of hot chili sauce or hot sauce that you have at home. Regular sriracha is good. I do like the little extra kick of coconut in this one, and just mix all of that together. Now I'm going to use this sauce twice, once straight on the ribs, and then a little bit later I want to use it as a basting sauce. So I'm going to save some of that sauce for basting a little later. Okay, so now we're at the cooking part, and we are going to give these ribs a lot of love. Not a lot of work, but a lot of love. We're going to cook them twice. So first of all, I want them really low and slow in a very tight foil parcel. That is what's going to give them that super soft texture and break down all of that lovely juicy meat. So I start off by just placing my ribs to a very large sheet of foil. Now you want to go at these ribs with some of that yummy spicy sauce. Spread that all over, top and bottom. And now I want a really tight seal here, so I'm going to put another piece of foil on top and then fold in the sides. And then pop those onto a tray and then into the oven for 2 hours. Okay, let's have a look and see how our pork is going. Smelling amazing. Now this is hot, so be careful. And now have a look at that. We're not quite ready for the party just yet, but see how tender this pork is. Bone is almost just falling out. Oh, that's so exciting. So what you want to do here is carefully, because this really is very soft right now, transfer that to another tray that's lined with foil. All this foil is great because it means that we're not going to have any of that messy washing up to do. And now any of those jammy juices that you can see on the bottom of that tray, don't want to waste those. So scoop that up, just dollop that down onto your ribs, just brush that over. And then now take some of that leftover sauce from earlier and just brush that over the top. A little extra lick of spice. And now I've turned the oven up high. I'm going to put these back in for about 10 or 15 minutes. You got to watch them because I want to get some really beautiful charriness on the outside, but I don't want them to burn. Holy moly, these are looking amazing. Look at that bubbling. Oh, it smells so gorgeous. Now, I want to get these out onto just a serving bowl. You really don't need much with this. Just want to get it out so everyone can help themselves. Now, the one accompaniment you will need is some napkins. Things are about to get messy. And now the moment of truth. You should be able to slide a butter knife right through there. Oh, so soft and tender. And of course I'm going to try one. Just make sure you guys are getting a good recipe. Speechless. I cannot even begin to tell you how amazing these are, guys. Look at how soft that is. 4 ingredient ribs. Epic. Clean as a whistle, sign of a good rib. That's the true test. Yum.
Ridiculously tender beef short ribs smothered in a sticky, sweet Asian sauce. Wow, this one truly a keeper, guys. These are my sticky Asian beef short ribs. So the first thing we want to do is get started on making like the most impactful, savory, sweet, all the things kind of sauce to braise our beef in. So I'm going to start off with some hoisin sauce. And then one of my little like secret go-tos or like kind of guilty go-tos for braising liquids is actually tomato ketchup. Now I know, like, you know, don't be all highbrow about these things. Tomato ketchup actually has a lot of really good flavors. It's got a lot of umami flavor, which you get from like concentrated tomato, plus like the sweet and the tangy. No one needs to know that you've put ketchup in there. They won't know at the end. And then here's another little cheat. I'm just full of all the cheats today. I'm going to be using some barbecue sauce. Look, I have my own Asian barbecue sauce, which I love because it has like tangy pickled garlic and Chinese 5-spice and lots of things. But any kind of barbecue sauce that you have in your area of the world that you love, it's totally great to use. So I'm going to put some of that in. Some brown sugar, a little bit more sweetness. And then I want some concentrated salty flavors here. So I want some soy sauce, some Chinese 5-spice, just in case your barbecue sauce doesn't have this one in it. It's a nice little sort of boost of spice flavor. And some garlic. And just give that a mix. And then I'm gonna loosen everything up with a little bit of beef stock here. So that's our braising liquid done. Let's now have a look at our beef short ribs. So these are the beef short ribs that I've got today. And these ones are kind of cut into like 1.5 inch kind of thick little cubes, but you can use the longer uncut beef short ribs as well. I don't like to use the really thin like Korean barbecue style short rib cut for this because it's a little too thin. I want some really like chunky, juicy meat at the end of our dish here. And you really want to salt each piece, like pay attention, give some love to each little piece here. And then just a little bit of oil, and then start searing. So you want to make sure you're getting all the sides here, and if I put this guy over, you can see that's what that's the kind of color flavor situation that I'm talking about there. That is going to stand us in good stead for an epic braise. So just keep turning these guys over. As much of that brown stuff as you can get as possible is gold. And you know that old thing where people are always saying, oh, you know, searing the beef, it's, you know, for a braise, it's all about like sealing in the juices. Total fallacy. Not the case. This is just a pure flavor play. So these guys are looking good. I'm going to start transferring the pieces as they're sort of browned and lovely over into a roasting tin. All right, so we've got our tray of seared beef, and now I have a pan that's left here with a little bit of fat, but also lots of that sort of brown caramelization stuff, and that stuff is flavor as well. We don't want to waste it. So I'm just going to pour a little bit of that fat off because I don't want all the fat. And then now I'm going to put the heat back on, and I'm going to deglaze the pan with this braising liquid that we made. And now you want to get in there with your wooden spoon and really kind of scrape up anything, all that flavor that's on the bottom of the pan there. And I just want this to simmer a couple of minutes so that, you know, all those flavors kind of mix together and make really good friends. Okay, so that is smelling all kinds of good, garlicky, sweet, and, oh, let me just try. Sweet and tangy, so good. All right, I'm gonna pour this out over those beef short ribs. And now you just wanna cover that up with some foil, and now pop it into the oven really low and slow for about 3 hours or until that beef is super soft and tender. All right, house is smelling so ridiculously amazing. Let's go and check out our beef. Oh, that is smelling so good. All right, let's have a look in here. So at this point, our ribs should be beautifully soft and tender. What I want to do is just get them nice and juicy. I might just flip a few of them over as well. And now I want to put these guys back under a really hot grill so that they kind of get a little sticky and all beautifully colored. Okay, these are looking so phenomenal. I mean, have a look. I'm just going to pull one of these out so we can see what's going on here. And literally like it's falling off the bone. Great. And now come and have a look in here. Look at how soft and tender that beef is. Yay. All right, we're not finished yet. I want to get this out on a plate and then I need to fiddle with that sauce a little bit. So I'm just going to pile these ribs up. So if we come back to the liquid that's here in the bottom of our pan, and this is the problem that you always get with beef short ribs because they are quite fatty, which makes them amazing, but you get a lot of fat sitting on top of your beautiful sticky sauce. So my little hack for getting rid of that oil is to actually use some paper towel. If you put that on top just like this, it'll soak up the oil, and then I just grab some tongs and take it off. So it's a little messy, but it works. So now that we've gotten rid of that fat layer, we have uncovered the most delicious, sticky, yummy, sweet little sauce. Let's have a look. Ah, look at that. Yum. All right, I want to get that all over my short ribs. And then just for a little bit of color and a kick of flavor at the end here, I'm going to add a little sprinkling of coriander and some very finely sliced chilies. There you go, guys. Sticky Asian beef short ribs. I am going to enjoy this one. Let's get in here and have a look. Look at how soft and tender that beef is. That brings me so much joy. Not as joyful as this mouthful is going to be though. Look at that. Wow, that beef just literally melts. It's like eating butter. It just is so soft and luscious. Not that you would actually eat butter on its own. Well, you could. I mean, I do butter my bread quite heavily, but anyway, whatever. This beef is amazing. Sticky sauce, ribs, you can never go wrong. But these ribs, they are a bit more intriguing than usual. Do I have sauce on my face now? I've probably got sauce on my face, right? This is my version of Singapore's coffee ribs. So when I first heard of coffee ribs, I was like, what are coffee ribs? I mean, that sounds awesome. I love coffee. I love ribs. Dax, what did you think? Coffee ribs? Were you like, yeah, hell yeah? Or were you like,
I was going to say, yeah, they're amazing, but we haven't had them yet.
So coffee ribs are...
Make me act, Marion. Damn you.
Give me something, Dax. So coffee ribs are a specialty in Singapore. You might not have heard about them if you live outside of Singapore, which is most of you. So let's get in here, make these things so you guys can see what all the fuss is about. Now, I'm starting off with a marinade. And oh, did I mention we're using an air fryer today? That's fun too. Anyway, marinade. We need some oyster sauce and some soy sauce, Chinese 5-spice. Now, bicarb soda, which you might think is a little bit odd, but this marinade, when you combine all the ingredients together, forms this really lovely light coating on your ribs that gets kind of like all crispy and golden when you air fry them. So pretty cool. Now I also need some corn flour. That's also going to give us that wonderful texture that we're after. And I need an egg, salt, and some pepper. I just whisk that together, and you can see we've sort of got this light batter texture. So that's exactly what we want. Now the ribs. Just want to cut them into individual ribs here. And then they go into the batter slash marinade. Mix them around.
And now these just need an hour for that marinade to do all its work. So that means we've got plenty of time to make our sticky coffee sauce. So just get your heat on, and I need some barbecue sauce here. You could find an Asian barbecue sauce, but this is actually just a standard like supermarket barbecue sauce. We're gonna add lots of other flavors here. The main thing is that you want it kind of sweet and tangy. Some honey and a little dash of water here as well. I also need some brown sugar, some rice wine vinegar, some Chinese Shaxing wine, some soy sauce, some dark soy sauce. And then the last thing I need is obviously some coffee for my coffee sauce. Now I'm using an instant coffee here, and then let that simmer away for about like 5 minutes or so. Things will start to get a little bit thick and syrupy. Such an odd ingredient to use for cooking. It's like sort of like reminiscent of coffee. I wouldn't say you taste it and you're like, oh, coffee, but it's cool. It adds a slight bitterness, I think. All right, so this sauce is looking pretty good. This is the kind of texture that you're after. It's syrupy, not too thick at this stage though. It'll thicken up later when we put the ribs in it. Now let's get our ribs. So these are my ribs that have had their time to marinate, and I'll just give them a quick mix again. Now traditionally you would cook these in some hot oil, but I am gonna use my air fryer today. Less mess, but the trick here is to make sure you don't overcrowd your air fryer basket. So if you have to do it in batches, that's cool, just don't overcrowd things, and that way you're gonna get the crispiest, most lovely golden texture. Now these just go into my air fryer, 10 minutes at 180 Celsius. All right, let's go check out our pork ribs. And I mean, this color is so cool. They look amazing. Lovely golden crispiness. This is exactly what I wanted. And you can see how that really light batter slash marinade business has formed such a nice, very thin coating on the outside of the ribs. That's really important because that is gonna like suck up all of that really beautiful sauce. So turn your sauce back on and ribs go in. And now toss them around until that sauce gets really thick and sticky. So as far as rib recipes go, I mean, this one is really easy. Don't have a long cook time or anything like that. And look how sticky and lush that looks. Oh, so cool. I'm gonna get these out onto a tray. Final little bits here, some sesame seeds, some sliced chili, and some coriander. And I mean, look at that. Look at that, look at those ribs. They're so amazing. I love that. They're just so shiny and sticky. That color, that deep mahogany color is so cool. They smell amazing. This sauce smells so good. The flavor is literally like no other kind of rib dish, right? Like usually with ribs, you've got really sweet, mainly like sauces that go with it, but this has a salty bitter flavor, still like a sweet undertone, but it's just so like interesting. I love it, I love it. And you can't really put your finger on that coffee flavor. It kind of tastes a little smoky and barbecuey, but with a slight bitterness. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, guys, I would highly recommend trying this out. You can't even get a real sense of what they taste like until you actually taste them. I am happy to eat a few of these. Hey friends, if you like sticky ribs as much as I do, then why not hit the subscribe button and that little bell, and I promise you I will make more ribs very soon.
Ridiculously tender, sticky ribs. Is there anything better, my friends? This version has all the spicy goodness and a few little like surprise ingredients here. These are my sticky Korean ginger beer ribs. All right, so let's fly. Land. I get them to land before I hit them. Yes! Yes. So you gotta like do a bit of, you know, so much strategy involved. Okay friends, so we're gonna go through like my foolproof technique on how to get the most tender, beautiful, melt in your mouth ribs, plus the sticky glaze. I use this method religiously with my ribs at home. For that, we wanna start off with some gochujang. I love this guy. It's a fermented Korean chili paste. It has
all the spicy, it has all the umami, slightly dried chili kind of flavor as well, which is nice. And I also love the color it gives the glaze and the sauce. To that, I'm gonna add some brown sugar, some soy sauce, and a little pinch of salt. Okay, just give that a whisk. Now the first stage of our technique for the ribs relies on creating a little parcel that's gonna allow a whole bunch of steam and heat to really kind of break down that beautiful porky meat between the ribs. So I want some foil here and some baking paper. I grab a chunk of my ribs. All right, so you just need a really thin layer of glaze here. So the whole idea with my technique is that you really concentrate on just getting the pork really nice and tender and soft, first of all, because like, you know, I actually think that when you've got the ribs at the end, it's really only that outside layer of glaze that you're really tasting. And I don't want to dilute that in this first cook where you get a lot of the meat juices coming out. So I'm just putting a little bit on here for some flavor, and then the rest of the sticky flavor will come later on when we're doing our second part of the cook. So there's always method to the madness, usually. Okay, now just kind of fold this up like it's a, you know, Christmas present. I mean, that's my kind of Christmas present, right? Like imagine if you're like under, you know, sitting around the tree, someone hands you a little parcel of ribs. I mean, what could be better than that? Okay, so that goes in my little baking tray here. Now get all of your chunks of pork into those little parcels. Same thing, a bit more glaze. So now we've got our little tray of presents here. How fun. These go into the oven, a low and slow temperature for 90 minutes, and then we'll come back and have a look. So that gives us loads of time to get the rest of our glaze sorted. We're sort of partway there with it, but I want to add some more flavor and tanginess. We're going to start with some ginger beer. So in Australia, ginger beer is like a huge thing. It is fizzy, it's sweet, but it has like a ginger kind of flavor. It's non-alcoholic as well. So I think probably the closest thing in the US or in other parts of the world might be root beer. That's probably most similar in flavor, but you could use cola or, you know, whatever kind of cool, sweet kind of soft drink you've got in your area that you want to sort of experiment with. I'm going to go in with my ginger beer. And if you're not using a ginger flavored kind of cola or soft drink, you could try adding in a little bit of grated ginger in here as well. That would be quite nice. Now I'm going to go in with some tangy here because I want to balance out that sweetness. So I've got some apple cider vinegar. And now what we want to do is mix this through so it's like sort of combined. What I want to do is simmer this for about 20 or 30 minutes. That is going to concentrate all of those amazing flavors in here and thicken everything up. Okay, let's come back here and have a look, and this is kind of what we're after here. It's thick and it's certainly getting some stickiness there, but it needs to cool down a bit and then it'll get really nice and thick and gloopy. So I'm just gonna pull it out into a bowl and wait for our ribs. Yum, you can really taste like the ginger beer, like that cola and ginger flavor. It's really yum. All right, hurry up ribs, I'm hungry. All right, let's come and have a look at our ribs now. Okay, so at this point, what we're hoping for is just some really soft, tender porkiness going on. We're not gonna have the color yet. They're not quite ready for your Instagram kind of shots yet. Let's get in here and have a look. Now, you guys at home should be waiting for these to cool down. I'm too impatient, so I'm just gonna get in here, and I've burnt my fingertips off from cooking so much, so it's okay for me. Right, let's have a look. All right, perfect. So what you can see here is that we've got the pork starting to come away from the bones. I can see when I push down that that is really nice and tender. I'm gonna get these out onto another baking tray, just lined with some more baking paper, purely because I hate to do the washing up. At this point, you can kind of like, you know, break a little piece off. Just try it.
Oh wow, I love that. It's so soft and tender. Yum.
And now we're into the sticky part. So we get our glaze, which has cooled down nicely, and look how nice and thick and shiny that is. And we want a really generous amount of that lusciousness all over. Top, bottom, sides, everywhere. Now I want you to turn your oven grill up really high here, and I'm going to give them like a couple of minutes, then I'm going to pull them out, glaze them again, another couple of minutes. We're kind of just layering the stickiness here. That's what we're doing. Pork is currently smelling heavenly. It's been in and out a couple of times, a few glazes, and this is what we've got. Oh my goodness, so good. Look at the shine, look at that color, like just slightly kind of burnished at the edges, exactly what I want. Now these guys are quite delicate because they are really lovely and soft, which is great. I'm just gonna pile them up because, I mean, you've gotta have a pile. You can't just have like one. Wow. Ooh. And I've already started licking my fingers. Well, that's what you gotta do when you got ribs, right? But I just have a little bit more of my glaze that I saved here, so I'm just gonna kind of drizzle that on the top there. Wow, yes, very good. And just a final little sprinkling of some coriander and spring onion. So there you go, guys. Now that is a plate of ribs. I'm gonna get in here, they're gonna be hot, but nothing can stop me right now. All right, let's get in here. Oh, it's so good. See how soft they are? Like you should, I mean, the bone just literally came out. That to me is really exciting. Let me just break that off. Oh, look at that. Oof, I'm burning my fingers, but I don't even care. Oh, wow. This looks so good. Wow. That is so ridiculously good. I mean, you know, all the bones are just falling out completely and things are sticky. My fingers are messy. But I'm very happy. That 2-cook method, so foolproof. And then that really sticky, like tangy glaze. And then you've got that little like hint of the ginger flavor from the ginger beer. Wow, ridiculous. So good, oh my goodness.